Dude, did you hear the news? Hakari's already gonna pull a domain expansion.
Yeah.
What's wrong? You don't sound hype.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just feel like I can't get hype for something that I don't know whether or not it's going to happen again.
You're still jacked up over Yuta?
Yeah, I get it, man. I understand. Man, that sucks, though. I really would love someone to share the...
You kidding, boy? Of course I'm hyped.
Thank you to our $5 patrons, Sendus Lancelot, Art Goon, and Praise the Sun. And a big thank you to our $25 patron, the Mr. Greed. Now, before we hop into this breakdown of chapter 182 of Jujutsu Kaisen, please do me a favor, leave your own thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon down below where you support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Now, let's get into last week's poll. So, last week I ended up asking y'all, due to the whole discussion early on in the chapter about natural disasters, who did you think would win between the two known natural disasters of the series, Gojo Satoru or Sukuna, the King of Curses? And notably, I will admit, this did catch me a little bit off guard. I thought it was going to be a bit more balanced, but with a 66 vote, meaning there was a 33% lead on his contender, Sukuna, the 20-fingered, full-powered King of Curses, took it over Gojo Satoru. And I will admit, right, well, I'm more of a Gojo fan myself, I won't lie, just because we've gotten more of the character. I do understand a lot of your narrative reasoning behind why Gojo technically, narratively has to lose that fight. But at the same time, like, just throwing out my own arguments out there. And I don't have a definitive opinion on who's stronger yet. I think I may make a video on that myself, but regardless, I think Sukuna would be the only one left for Gojo to fight once he gets out. Because notably, by the time Gojo gets out, Kenjaku's already going to be defeated. Probably by a combination of Yuta, Megami, Hakari, and Itadori. So, I feel like Sukuna would be the only one left. Unless we're ending on a super dark ending, I feel like Sukuna winning isn't legal. like I don't think that's going to be allowed. But who knows, you know? I wouldn't be shocked if Gege was like, you know what? Bad timeline. And just ended it with Sukuna winning. So I'd perfectly get y'all narrative arguments of why, reasonably, Sukuna should be the mightiest. However, that was a good poll. Shout outs to the 193 votes on that poll. Love getting the community consensus. It's always great to do. I love these nice discussions, the great discussion we have in the comment section of those posts. All that really, really good. Make sure you get tomorrow's poll dropping at 12 p.m. in order to make sure you get your input on next week's video. Yeah, next week, because we don't have a break next week. Hallelujah. So make sure you get your vote out for 12 p.m. tomorrow so your vote is included for next week's video. All right, now let's hop into chapter 182. What's up, guys? I love Pencil Green. Here we are to read chapter 182 of Jujutsu Kaisen, aka Tokyo number 2 colony. Stop naming them like these. I mean, I guess I get to come up with alternate titles, which is fun. But I suppose the artist versus the gambler is the best is the best title for this chapter. And notably, I actually really like this chapter on multiple different levels for multiple different reasons. So let's hop right into it. So we get to see that somehow, some way, out of his cursed energy, Bernard has managed to summon the G Battle Staff. And I don't know, it's very interesting. It's a weird thing that I've noticed, but has anyone else realized that a lot of cursed tools, I think the only exception off the top of my head is Playful Cloud, but a lot of cursed tools, hold on, let me see, even the Inverted Spear of Heaven, I think. I've come to correct myself, not the Inverted Spear of Heaven, but a lot of cursed tools seem to have the fluff on the end of them. I wonder why. I can't really think of a reason, but I know Maki's original staff had fluff on it, this staff has fluff on it, Maki's sword has fluff on it. Toji's sword had fluff on it. Like, so many different things have fluff. And I don't know why. I was going to say the prison realm had fluff on it. No, but in actuality, I don't know. It just caught my attention because this is another cursed tool. And who knows, did he manifest this from his own cursed energy, or does he just have this? I feel like he had to manifest it, right? Like, there's no way there was just a manga pen weapon lying around. I know it's called the G Battle Staff, but like, I don't know. Did he really manifest that? How many people manifest things from there? Notably, like, Mai had a creation technique, but then again, this isn't even his main curse technique. I don't know. It's very interesting. I wonder where he got that from. Like, I didn't see him with it in the last chapter. Did he just pull it out of nowhere? I don't know. However, it's a really cool weapon, I will admit. Obviously, I'm that guy with a pencil, so my own weapon wouldn't be the same. It would literally just be a pencil, or an oversized pencil. But still, if I had a follow-up weapon, it would be a I don't know, a Sharpie marker. But still, this will be on the list somewhere. However, we get to see that even with this gigantic weapon pointed at him, Hakari, he's just smiling so smugly. And like, I love it. Because you gotta think about it, right? As cool as some of these other sorcerers are, especially the modern sorcerers, like your Higurumas and now your Bernards, like, I doubt they have formal training or like any sort of real conception of cursed energy outside of what they may have recently learned. However, Bernard seems to raise a question on whether or not he always had cursed energy. Meanwhile, because we don't get backstory on Bernard just yet, so maybe he is like Higuruma and he got cursed energy very recently, and or he's unlike Higuruma and was a sorcerer for a while. But we see that Hakari is likely so confident because he has such an edge. Like, he's a trained combatant, trained by Satoru Gojo, the strongest sorcerer, and has been using his curse technique for likely years on end at this point. And also, he's just a very proficient fighter. Like, overall, Hakari definitely has the edge here, so I definitely get the smug smile on his face. However, shoutouts to Bernard, because he instantly tears apart that carousel that they're in. He just blasts them out the door. And notably, we get to see that, once again, I just love super physicality in JJK, right? Because Bernard sliced open the carriage like it was nothing with the G battle staff, and Hakari managed to dodge it all, and then after proceeding to dodge a stab from Bernard, they both leap out of the Ferris wheel and land on another building with no repercussions. That's just metal to me. I don't know. Like, once again, I go over this with Itadori a lot because Itadori is the most common recipient of, oh yeah, I'm physically strong, but in a perceptible human way. But even just simple things like that. Like, can you imagine leaping from a Ferris wheel onto another building smoothly without breaking your legs while your hands are still in your pockets like Hakari the G? Like, honestly, it's just metal. However, we get to see that Bernard, in the same page, is using manga quotes, or at least he's quoting certain authors at first. Like, this first one he uses an author quote from the author's notes. It was my dream to become an astronaut, but it seems like it wasn't meant to be. Instead, I'm thinking about traveling to the space inside my head. Which is a bar, I will admit. But I don't, like, the context of the situation doesn't necessarily make sense here. Like, it's not a manga quote. It's not like Bernard wanted to be an astronaut. I don't know why he's saying this, especially as he's trying to stab for Hakari's head. Like, notably, Hakari has to, like, dodge his head out of the way to make sure he doesn't get hit. So, don't know the context of the quote, but it is a cool quote. However, I love how a big point to note here is that Hakari keeps his hands in his pockets the entire time. Like, he keeps his hands in his pockets when Bernard first strikes and tears apart the carousel. He keeps his hand in his pockets as he dodges the stab for his head. He keeps his hands in his pockets as he lands down on the building that they both leap down to. And notably, it's so cool. Notably, in my live reaction, I literally just said it's Vegito, and as a fan of Vegito, I do like it. Like, literally, as Hakari asks Bernard, like, what was that random author's quote supposed to be? And he's literally just kicking away the battle staff while just dancing backwards. I think it's hilarious. And notably, he kicks so hard that Bernard is actually sent flying backwards, which is just, once again, a testament to Hakari's strength. And we get to see that essentially the only reason Bernard said it was because it's a poem by an author he likes, Miss Hoshino Katsura. And let's see, quotes from author's notes. Oh, D. Gray. Oh, so the D. Gray Man mangaka. Interesting. And we see, I love Hakari's such a demon, bro. Like legitimately, I love the man because he's legit. Like, since when was an author's note considered a poem? Like he's not even really concerned or pressed in this battle. He's literally just like, huh, yeah, this guy's nuts. But if he is nuts, what's the logic behind that? I don't know. It was hilarious. However, we get to see that Bernard's belief is something that's interesting, right? He says, every mangaka departs the earth looking for fiction inside their heads. Reality is not enough to satisfy them. That's an interesting way to put it. I don't know, right? Because, like, when I write stories, it's not like I'm dissatisfied with my own reality. It's just because I think of other realities that would be cool. So, I don't know. I wonder if that makes, like, notably, I'm not a mangaka specifically, so maybe this is out of my pay grade. Maybe I shouldn't speak on this. However, the thing is, it's very interesting to see that with reality not being enough to satisfy them, that leads them to extremes. Like, I'm assuming the reason Bernard is saying this is because he's been driven to an extreme, right? He's not satisfied by reality, and thus he's looking for a fiction inside his head that he could not release, and thusly, he's now going to take it out by slaughtering people. I mean, I guess I can't. I can knock his hustle. I don't agree with that. I was about to say, I can't knock his hustle, but you know what you can knock? The like button. The like button is free. So is the subscribe button. They don't tell you that one too often, but both are free, and they both help out the channel a lot. If you could press the like button real quick, just tap it real quick. It helps out the channel a lot, helps out the videos, and the videos doing good helps out the channel. However, speaking of knocking things out, yeah, like, I can't really rock with Bernard just because, like, dude, this isn't, like, you got rejected for being a mangaka. That does not mean you become a violent mass unaliver. Like, that's not the logical course of action, right? Like, I've gotten denied from things in the past. It doesn't make me want to become a serial unaliver. Like, Bernard, I think you were just a little bit nutty, my boy. Like, I don't know what you had. I don't know what you did. I don't know what you're doing, but maybe you should calm down there, buddy. Maybe it's not that serious. Maybe it's not that deep. However, for Bernard, it is that deep. And we see that apparently in his despair, in his reality, fiction came to him. So essentially, and notably, thank you to the translator for this, but the kanji is cursed technique, but the Fugiwara is fiction. So it's kind of a play off what he was already saying. Like, he was talking about how fiction couldn't come to certain mangaka in reality, and that's why they were dissatisfied. While he was dissatisfied, the fiction came to him out of unreality. Why is everything a Kingdom Hearts reference? No, I'm kidding. But in actuality, it is interesting to see that he views his curse technique as something of fiction. So I'm assuming this is recent, right? Like, there's no way. But then again, where did he get the battle staff? I don't know. But we see that apparently, despite fiction coming to him, since he couldn't do anything with it, like, well, at least do anything in his dream world in Manga Land, he is filled with despair. He's lost all his motivation. And this is a very interesting point, right? Like, notably, hi, I'm a content creator myself. I post content daily. For the most part, I be fumbling. And I be posting content very, very late. Because sometimes I be fumbling. But I get that. I get the idea of, like, losing motivation. That's not just in content creation. That's just in life. Sometimes you just move on so far in life. You do the same thing for so long, and you suddenly get bored of it, and you lose all motivation. It's kind of like, man, what's the purpose in life? Why bother? Why are we doing this? Why are we here? What do we suffer? Like, I get that to a degree. I will admit the idea of losing all motivation is pretty sad, honestly, and notably, it varies from person to person. Like, notably, I said notably twice, but notably, in terms of me losing motivation, I can't necessarily. No, I've lost motivation in the past before, but notably, once again, it just hasn't led me to the same path that Bernard's gotten on. Like, I lost motivation, but then I just stopped doing it and went to do something else, or I just added more to what I was doing, like keep motivation going. I don't know. Once again, can't get the leap, Bernard. Can't get the leap. You're what you're saying. You're low-key spitting. What you're doing, you low-key belong in prison. Like, I'm not gonna lie. However, we get to see that Bernard asks Hakari what the name of this feeling is, the feeling of losing all motivation. And notably, that's the interesting thing, right? Bernard is spitting on a general idea of just losing motivation as both a content creator and a content consumer. Meanwhile, Hakari has my answer. Whenever you lose motivation, that just means you're kind of bored. So spice things up, do something different. However, Bernard takes it to the ultimate extreme and just says that his loss of motivation leads to despair. And I mean, I guess I can see that. Like, notably, that's the scary thing. Like, if you dedicate your life to one thing and one thing only, and suddenly that one thing were to fall through, that one thing were to perish, that one thing were to suddenly not be an option for you anymore, then obviously you have pretty good reason to despair at that point, because you've wasted all that time, you've dedicated everything to that one goal, and then that one goal can't even be achieved. So who knows? That may be years, decades, who knows? Maybe even quarter century. No, I'm kidding. But you may have dedicated a whole ton of time to that goal, so once that goal is ripped away from you, it may lead to despair. That's why I always warn people. I always warn people. Yes, me, that guy with the pencil, giving out perfect life advice. But I always say, have a hobby, have something on the side, get multiple streams of income. Do get passive income. No, I'm kidding. But do things that make you happy alongside of your main goal, because then you will not fall into despair. You will have other things to fall back on to make sure you don't just go down the path of Bernard, I guess, and fall into despair. I don't mean go down the path of Bernard, develop a magical curse technique, and suddenly join an execution game. I don't mean that. However, I do mean just live an enjoyable life, because you only got the one. However, we get to see that Bernard, in his despair, he has decided to strike out. And notably, Hakari finally had to draw his fist out, because Bernard came out of nowhere with the downward strike, and Hakari got a slice on his right cheek, but he still managed to block most of the blade from like actually impaling him by drawing his fist out. So, which is impressive. That means I'm not sure if Hakari was caught off guard here, but it's likely he's suppressed. Notably, yeah, he's definitely suppressed. Based on what he shows later in the chapter, he's 100% suppressed here, and he kind of just wanted to let it happen, essentially. And we see how... This is hilarious. We see how Hakari's like, man, really? Is this even okay? A mangaka hurting people with his pen? Like, it's hilarious how Hakari is somewhat playing into it. Once again, he's here to have fun. He got on that carousel ride with Bernard just because he was like, man, I don't know, I'm bored, about to bring some fine women here, lady. You know, I'm just here to chill. I'm just here to vibe. I'm here to help you out. So it's hilarious that he's really just not taking this fight seriously, and even just playing off of Bernard's despair, which is always cool to see. I don't know. I like it. To a degree, I like it when characters are a little detached from the situation at hand, but still involved in a way that they can play with their opponent. Once again, the Vegito effect. However, we get to see that Bernard essentially equates his act of violence to a fictional character's act of violence. And notably, we see that both the translator and Hakari are like, well, one, that didn't really happen, and two, it wasn't fatal. like both the translator and Hakari himself, someone outside the narrative and someone inside the narrative, like, dude, that didn't really happen, and it also wasn't murderous. Like what's wrong with you? And we get to see that, notably, even with Hakari still just kicking away the pen, having a good time, the ink apparently has been filled. And with this being done, I'm assuming the ink, quote unquote, in this case is Hakari's blood. And we see that it looks like Hakari manages to get Hakari manages to get Hakari. Bernard manages to tap Hakari on the chest. And what pops up there is a manga panel, or at least like a little square. And Hakari is like, I should have dodged that. But what is this? And we see that he legit asks, what is this? And he goes to do a spin kick to get Hakari in the dome. Hakari does a spin kick to get Hakari in the dome. But he does a spin kick to get Bernard in the domer. But Bernard actually manages to dodge. And Hakari's like, I'm sorry, what did you do? Like, he's legit looking like, sorry, good sir, I'm gonna need you to run that by me again real quick. What did you just manage to do? And then Bernard, notably, there's a big focus on his eyes, and then Bernard swings, and then knocks, like, he gets a good slash across Hakari's torso, and Hakari goes flying. And, like, I'm not sure how much of this is Hakari leaping back and Hakari literally just being sent, but he literally bounces, like, once, twice, and then manages to recover. And but the strange thing is, despite getting a huge slash across his torso, I guess Bernard must have used, like, the blunt end of the weapon that he's using, the G battle staff, because Hakari's clothes aren't even ripped. Interesting. But notably, Hakari got his arms out. And to be fair, Hakari, he got his hands out of his pockets earlier to stop you from stabbing him in the head. So, I keep saying Hakari. Bernard, notably, he got his hands out earlier to stop you from stabbing him in the head. So, chill out, bro. But we see that what Hakari realizes is that the move that Bernard just did wasn't necessarily a dodge built on the fundamentals of combat, just like combat training and reacting to your opponent. It was a reflexive dodge. Kind of like, it's hard to think of a comparison, right? Because I'm not necessarily a martial artist anymore, but I say that like I was ever a martial artist in seriousness. But the thing is, a reflexive dodge is like preemptive. Like, you know how you know something's going to fall, and then instead of like stopping it from falling, you kind of just move your hand there beforehand. Like, it was a reflexive kind of move. You know what else should be reflexive? Hitting the like button. And also hitting the subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate that. It helps out the channel a lot. But regardless of that, you know how like something may be falling off your desk, and instead of letting it or being forced to actually naturally react to it, you just see it's going to fall, you let it fall, catch it, and then place it down stable again. Essentially, that's what Hakari realizes that Bernard just did. That dodge he did was not based around anything truly evident immediately. It was just something that Bernard managed to do on reflex. And we see that Bernard is once again impressed that Hakari took his hands out of his pockets, and it's finally... No, this is funny. And notably, I think I made the same mention, but this is this feels like a Baki reference. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, the fact that, like, Bernard points out that, oh, you took your pockets out of your hands. Or no, you took your hands out your pockets. Or could you say that your pockets are finally out of your hands? I haven't actually watched or read Baki in full, but I specifically remember I was hanging out with someone, and were playing a Baki clip, and there's that one dude who fights with his hands in his pockets, and he was fighting Olivier, and Olivier was like, oh, I see, your pockets are leaving your hands, not your hands are leaving your pockets. Oh. And in response, just Hakari's like, this stupid, dumb bubblegum built like a backward... Like, Hakari actually finally got annoyed, which is cool to see. I love that. We get to see that Hakari, I wonder if he even knows about the showing your hand amp to curse techniques, or if he's just flexing. Because, I don't know, Bernard doesn't seem like the person who would know about that. So I bet it's just him flexing because he wants to flex. But he explains that it's a manga panel. So what Bernard is seeing is a few frames ahead in life. So essentially a minor version of Future Vision, of essentially a baby Sharingan, which has a few bits of setup to it. Essentially what Bernard explains it as is that he says it's kind of like catching or like spoiling yourself on the bottom left panel of a manga sheet when you're trying to read the top right, like your eyes just glaze over there. And because of that, considering you're like getting a little glimpse into the future, Hakari's curse technique, Bernard's curse technique, pencil, get it right, Bernard's curse technique essentially allows him to see a few seconds in the future, a little bit of it, a preview enough that he can do reflexive moves like that. About 1 second, in fact. And considering, apparently, as long as the G battle staff keeps fueling up and keeps landing with, or essentially as long as Bernard keeps landing attacks, he can see even further into the future. So, pretty interesting. And the thing is, Hakari's like, huh, that's kind of cool. So you can see into the future, huh? Tell me, how good is that future sight? And we see the way that Bernard sees it, right, is that Hakari starts to run, but then he sees the future version of Hakari already running, and he goes to, apparently Hakari in this future that he sees would have gone for a swing. And the thing is, Hakari does get the swing in, but naturally Bernard dodges. And we see another implication where another fist comes in and Bernard dodges because he can see into the future. And admittedly, it's interesting, right? Because even Bernard realizes that, whoa, he was holding back. Because he straight up says, if I hadn't activated the G battle staff, he'd be a goner. So he just done, son. Like, legitimately, that's very interesting, though, that Hakari really did just open up in this battle so severely suppressed that he's not even really, like, the evolution of, like, Hakari got a whole second faster, which really reasonably isn't too crazy. Like, oh, well, no, it's crazy in our human sense, but in the JJK sense, it shouldn't be too crazy. But still, Bernard, using his future vision, manages to not only dodge Hakari, but actually land a hit with the blunt end of the G battle staff again, and he manages to smack Hakari on the domer. And we see that Hakari's like, huh, golly gee willikers, you really can't see it. And Bernard's like, yeah, we. I'm glad. It's hilarious that the translator doesn't even have to say it. Like, everyone who's reading JJK just knows what what the word "we" means in French. But we see that Bernard is like, he's so confident and everything, but then Hakari's like, huh, well, you left out a little bit of detail there, buddy. And as Bernard goes to read the future, he realizes that suddenly Hakari's gone, like straight up vanished. And then Hakari ends up behind him and manages to hit him with a slobber knocker on the back. Hakari hit Bernard from the back. Do with that what you will, fan artists. But regardless of that, interestingly enough, it seems, that's strange though, because what Hakari mentions here and what Bernard seems to directly show off is that he still needs to confirm what's going to happen with his eyes. He still needs to read the panel. Like, you aren't going to, if your manga is behind you and you aren't turning around, you aren't going to be able to read or even catch that little glimpse of the future. So you're not going to be able to spoil yourself, essentially. However, like, it just goes to show, if Hakari managed to get behind Bernard, and Bernard couldn't see that future in the first place, then this is pretty weak precog. I'm not going to lie. It's pretty weak, and it can just be overwhelmed by anyone with a decent speed gap, because Hakari literally just blitzed him, and bada bing, bada boom, he was behind him. And I love how Hakari fights, too, right? Like, he fights almost like an MMA fighter. Like, because he has the amazing kicks, but then he lunges in with a punch, and then, and this is one of my favorite things ever, just like in fiction in general, like, he punches Bernard away, and then as Bernard goes to recover and turns around, Hakari's already behind him, and then Bernard swings the battle staff to try and hit Hakari, but Hakari has already gone back into a handspring, and proceeds to handspring upward and kick him dead in the face. Like, and like, the thing is, Bernard manages to block it with his arm, and as Hakari declares he's going to attack from the blind spot. But what Bernard is forced to note is the same thing that Yuji noted, and the same thing that Gojo mentioned. Hakari's technique, his curse energy is rough. It's coarse like a file, and it hurts just to be hit by. Not even just the curse energy reinforcement. The curse energy that's flowing around Hakari's body is spiky, and that's very interesting. I wonder if that's a natural part of Hakari, like the moment he manifests his cursed energy, it was all just spiky roughness, and or if somehow he developed that skill over time, like he's constantly manipulating his cursed energy to the point where it has this spiky barbed exterior, which makes his attacks all the more potent, and almost gives like, not necessarily a Sage mode effect. Like, I don't think, unless he's releasing cursed energy around his body at all times to a decent degree, I don't think he could like whiff a punch and still hit you like in Sage mode, but he has that like extra little layer between, like the buffer between. Meanwhile, someone like Itadori will legit just punch you in the face. And we get to see that what Bernard essentially realizes is like, well, okay, he locked off all my future vision because he's not going to let me see him. But if I know his attacks are going to come from behind, then I should be able to react. However, I love it how as Bernard's thinking this, Hakari's right behind him with the smuggest look on his face, like, I bet you thought you had this, huh? I bet you thought you were real, huh? I thought you were smart? Thought you were a G? Sorry, my boy, this simply ain't the case. And Bernard swings with the G battle staff, and the reason I'm so confused on when Bernard is, like, what Bernard is, like, when did he learn cursed energy, essentially, is because he knows what cursed energy is. I don't know. Like, I know Higuruma figured it out, but Bernard doesn't seem like a full-blown prodigy genius like Higuruma. So, I don't know. Very interesting. But we get to see that Hakari catches it. He catches the G battle staff mid-swing with his left hand and proceeds to punch this man dead in the back. He proceeds to once again blow his back out with a punch to the back again. And you know, with the spiky curse energy, that was not feeling too good. But we get to see this really cool, I love this interaction, right? This really cool panel where Hakari's like, yo, not gonna lie, an otaku like you're one of them, my boy. You one of them. No matter what, no matter who, no matter how, some way, an otaku like you will always find a reason to pick a fight, even over the simplest thing. So I must break you. Like, did you watch Rocky 4 or something before you came here, Hakari? Like, why you gotta break him? But of course, that's an interesting quote, right? Because once again, this kind of feeds into Hakari's character. Like, he's a rough, hot-headed gambler dude, but at the same time, he likes to help people out. So I'm assuming when he says break Bernard here, he means break in the, like, passive sense. Like, he's not actually going to break all of Bernard's bones, but you can tell by how he takes his fist and kind of like slams it into Bernard's side here that he'll rough him up a little bit, but at the same time, I feel like Hakari is essentially trying to save Bernard from himself, like break him out of despair by giving him a new reason to live, possibly giving him new inspiration for battle, because he declares that he's got to break him completely, and he sends Bernard flying once again. And interestingly enough, we see that Hakari once again goes to the whole, like, ironically enough, I know everything's a Kingdom Hearts reference, but remember in Kingdom Hearts 2 when you could use reversal on the nobodies and you would just end up behind them? That's literally what Hakari seems to do. Like, he punches Bernard away and proceeds to, like, reversal right behind him. But this time, Bernard manages to time his swing just right that Hakari gets a slash upon the head. And once again, the G battle staff is filled up. You know what else could be filled up? The like button. Really appreciate that, you know? You just click on it real quick. Helps the channel out a lot, and honestly, I would love it. And also the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. If you're 30 minutes deep, please. I do Jujutsu Kaisen reviews every single week, every single time they drop, and I do Jujutsu Kaisen videos in general. Thank you. Now, let's get back into it. So we see that Hakari is now double marked. Essentially, with the slash from his head, he's even further into the future. And once again, Bernard is just going off prattling. Like, and I don't know, I kind of find it hilarious at this point. Like, he's so determined to reference manga. Like, he literally pulls out a quote out of nowhere. Like, once the vessel known as the heart is scarred. I don't even know, like, from Shiguri chapter, I think 20. I don't know. Like, he got these quotes. Like, notably, I speak in quotes a lot too, but since I'm stupid, like, it's constantly like Thanos quotes. Like, I just say the most common quote I will use is perfectly balanced as all things should be. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that's mainly the only quote I use. But Bernard has pulled out quotes from author's notes, actual chapters across various manga. Like, that's pretty impressive. That's a pretty good repertoire to have in your brain. However, we get to see that apparently Bernard's vessel is already shattered into dust, and with it, the turbid flow of emotions are just spilling out of him. He's just tied so deep into it. His battle staff is filled. His staff is pulsating, throbbing, and writhing, and he's ready because he can see 2 seconds into the future. So he's going to be waiting. He plans to be waiting in the blind spot of Hakari's future. So this may have given him the edge to somewhat see what's going to happen. Like, maybe if that 1 second wasn't enough because Hakari was too fast, then this extra second will do him just as well. But unfortunately, Hakari really said, you know what? What? I'm really tired of this man. Ryoki Tenkai. Restless gambler. I want to know, I can't wait, once again. Notably, I don't really watch anime. I watch the fights occasionally. If I hear they look really, really good, I'll watch the fights. But I do want to hear Hakari's voice actor, and I want to hear them say either Ryoki Tenkai or how the English voice actor voices this. Let's see, domain expansion, restless gambler. Like, I can't even like I have like hip hop tracks playing in the background. Like, if I could think of Hakari's introduction, I would think of like hip hop tracks, like Casino Roll. Like, I'm not exactly sure how even I would voice Hakari. Hakari probably does. He definitely has like a deeper voice, but like, I'm not sure how I'd roll that. Domain expansion, restless gambler. I don't know how I can't even think of how I would voice it. Usually I can think of a voice for a character, but Hakari has such a specific look to him that I don't think I can emulate that voice. However, really, really insane that he's immediately whipping out the domain expansion. And we get to see that apparently Hakari's domain, he ain't like Higuruma. Well, Higuruma's Shikigami has the domain. But still, he is a modern sorcerer, all right. Because he got that sure hit effect. And we see that apparently the domain is Hakari, because he can see into the future, did get the entire rule set. Bernard, because he can see into the future, did get the entire rule set of Hakari's domain. However, it's a sure hit effect domain. So there's nothing that Bernard could really do unless he could like react to everything. But even then, it's going to be not impossible. Though I'm very interested to see what Hakari's domain is going to be. Mainly because we haven't even seen his curse technique. Like, even before Yuta whipped out his domain, like, we got his curse technique. But we don't really know what Hakari's is. We've gotten vague glimpses of it, but we never actually got to see it. So it's interesting that we're seeing the pinnacle of his technique before we actually see the technique itself. But I suppose that's what this next chapter is going to be a glimpse into Hakari's domain. And I'm assuming what's going to happen is, I don't think the fight's going to be over that quickly. What I'm assuming is that Bernard is going to awaken to his own domain in this moment, like the second after. And thusly, that's going to be his way. If anything, he'll realize the core of curse energy, and then in an effort to survive, activate his own domain. Unless Hakari's sure hit technique isn't like pure violence and absolute destruction, and he needs to live a little bit inside there. However, this chapter, really, really solid. If for the fact that these are two extreme bombastic characters just going back and forth, I really like that. It's a fun, it's weird to say a fun dichotomy, but like the way these two play off each other, like they're both two extremes. Like you could argue they're somewhat caricatures, but what Gege does to make them not caricatures is throw in those little extra details, like the consistent manga quotes, like the crazed nature behind him, his design, and Hakari's just overall laid back, helpful, fun nature as he's messing around with Bernard and promising to break him. And obviously the reveal of the domain expansion is hype, and as I alluded to in the intro, I am cautiously hype. Like, I hope we get to actually see the domain this time. And if we do, I'm assuming that means Hakari really isn't going to be a factor in the final fight. Because I still 100% believe the main reason we didn't see the triple domain battle is not just because, oh, it was too crazy to see. Triple domain would have been nuts. But also, I feel like we're actually going to see Yuta's domain when he uses it against Kijaku or something like that. Like, we aren't going to be able to properly see it until it's against a real opponent of note. And unfortunately, as much as I love Ryu and Takako, they were not real opponents of note, unfortunately. So, it would make sense why we don't get to see his domain, but I wish Hakari would be more involved in the final battle. Or maybe, who knows, maybe his domain, considering it's random completely, because it's like a restless gambler, it's constantly changing. Maybe he has a different domain each time. Who knows? However, chapter, very, very solid. I really, really like it. Probably is it peak? Like, the thing is, I like to give peak chapters, but then again, notably, I give out like 9 to 10s when there's no problems in the chapter. And there are no problems in this chapter, and it ends on a really hype moment. And it reveals curse techniques, and that's really, really cool. So, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Those are my thoughts on the chapter. Please tell me your thoughts on the chapter in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below. We can support for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Thank you guys so much thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off.